Another nice day again with temperatures feeling like winter anyways. And what did I read today? How about this one? Apparently it's kind of a follow-up story of someone who flew a drone around a sporting event, and because of that, as they say, he's been charged and they're giving you all these warnings about it. This one says, FBI explains missteps after man charged with illegally flying drone over AFC championship. And a recap of what happened is that the AFC championship was briefly halted on January 28th because of a drone flying over M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. A Pennsylvania man is now facing federal charges. The Baltimore Ravens playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs was stopped during the first quarter for an administrative timeout. According to an affidavit, a drone flying over the stadium during the game triggered that stoppage in play. A criminal complaint filed in the federal court on Monday and an affidavit in support of the criminal complaint explains what led up to the stoppage in play. Investigators say 44-year-old Matthew Hebert from Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania was flying an unregistered drone over M&T Bank Stadium during the game, taking pictures of himself and the stadium, which violates federal law. Herbert is now facing multiple federal charges for operating an unregistered drone, operating a drone without an airman certificate, and for violating United States airspace. Herbert told investigators that he did not have any training on how to operate a drone nor a license to operate the drone, and he was unaware of federal requirements for flying one. And then afterwards they explain kind of the technicalities of what constitutes as a sporting event that would receive these types of restrictions. It says, federal law restricts drones from flying within a 3 nautical mile radius of any stadium with a seating capacity of 30,000 or more during a Major League Baseball, National Football League, or college football game and major motor speedway events. The temporary flight restriction applies 1 hour before the event time and runs until 1 hour after the event concludes. Any event that includes 30,000 people or more operating a drone over that crowd is dangerous. So all in all, it seems like the guy admitted it to, I guess, breaking the law. That's what you want to say and all that. I guess with that in mind, is it necessarily kind of like what they imply here in terms of being safe for people to read up on all this stuff? Or should it be more of, let's just say, the responsibility of the officials as well to make it more common sense in terms of the approach, make it more apparent? Like, for example, with things like the road, which is a great example, you don't expect everyone, like a pedestrian, for example, to constantly treat everything as if they're driving a car. There's basic traffic lights and all that. So should there be something that simple as an example to tell people, hey, don't fly during this time and all that? Because even the radius, it depends on how you're thinking, but it's just so large. Again, if someone's just flying something like, I don't know, FPV drones in their backyard and stuff for fun, it's kind of ludicrous to have that wide of a range. In my opinion anyways, in terms of the process here, it's too complicated for the average person. I mean, you could be flying, let's just say something perfectly legal, it's a small drone, you're not doing anything wrong, but all of a sudden you have this huge radius that you're nowhere near, and because they classify everything as a drone, you could be breaking the law and all that. So in my opinion anyways, if you're trying to educate people in these ways, it has to be a little bit more straightforward, again, like how we handle other things in life, like the roads and all that. And apparently here it sounds like Ukraine is going to step up on their drone productions and all that, again, as you've been hearing a lot about that in the news recently. This one says Zelensky orders creation of separate military force for drones. President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday ordered the creation of a separate branch of Ukraine's armed forces devoted to drones, weapons he and the military officials say are crucial to fighting the war against Russia. Zelensky signed a decree calling on the government and general staff of the armed forces to work out issues on the creation within the Ukrainian armed forces of a separate force for drone systems. Saying here, I just signed a decree which will launch the creation of a separate branch within our armed forces, a drone systems force, Zelensky said in his nightly video address. This is not a question for the future, rather it must provide concrete results in the very near future. This year must be decisive in a great many aspects, and clearly on the battlefield, drone systems have shown their effectiveness on land, in the skies, and on the seas. And this was a fascinating read today. As you know, for many people who are in a high position of power or people who aspire to make a lot of money from certain businesses, you usually have to keep your mouth shut per se when it comes to certain subjects, and as well, if you say something that goes against their personal beliefs, then you could be, let's just say, canceled. And I read this before in the previous years where there was an actress working on a Star Wars show. She apparently got fired because of a comment, and now it seems like she's suing them for it, which happens to be Disney. And the interesting thing about this is apparently it says Elon Musk is going to be funding it. This one says, Gina Carano sues Disney over Mandalorian firing in lawsuit funded by Elon Musk. Lucasfilm in 2021 announced that Carano will not be returning to the hit series after sharing a post implying that being a Republican is like being Jewish during the Holocaust. It was the latest in a long string of posts in which the former MMA fighter drew the ire of social media users for her right-wing positions on hot-button issue. Man, this all sounds so political. It says Carano, who was dropped by UTA following the controversy, previously mocked government mandates to wear masks during the COVID-19 pandemic and falsely suggested that voter fraud occurred during the 2020 presidential election. According to the complaint, Disney and Lucasfilm harassed and defamed Carano for refusing to conform with their viewpoints on issues relating to Black Lives Matter, preferred pronouns, and disproving claims of election interference. While she was allegedly fired for her cultural and religious beliefs, Carano argues the entertainment giant turned a blind eye to her male co-stars who allegedly made offensive and degenerating posts directed towards Republicans. She points to Pedro Pascal's 2017 post comparing former President Donald Trump to Hitler. The suit says Disney required Carano, who was paid $25,000 per episode as a guest actor and later negotiated a one-time $5,000 bonus, to meet the representative of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Discrimination and demanded a public apology. And it says here, defendants went so far as to try and convince Carano's publicist to force Carano to issue a statement admitting to mocking or insulting an entire group of people, which Carano have never done. And with that, they talk about the platform X, formerly known as Twitter, essentially funding her suit here. I remember reading this before where apparently there was another case of somebody saying something on the platform that, let's just say, the employer didn't like, he got fired. So they actually helped funded his case and he actually won. So it says here on X funding the suit, Carano added, I am honored that my case has been chosen to be supported by the company that has been one of the last glimmers of hope for free speech in the world. Last year, Musk pledged to fund legal action for users on X who claim they have faced discrimination by their employers over their activity on the platform. The offer came with no limit on costs, with Musk saying he would go after the board of directors of the companies too. So it's kind of interesting, especially the fact that you have a platform getting involved. Is it more due to the fact, for example, that the person wrote these comments on X, so it's in their best interest to kind of tell people if anybody fires you because something you wrote here, they will fight it, assuming what you did was perfectly legal and all that. So it's kind of interesting to think about, and it's probably expensive too. At the same time, I know there was some controversy and conflicts between the company Disney and the platform X, for example, where they pulled out advertisements and all that, so maybe that's a factor as well. But again, this kind of reminds me too, everything is so political at times, talking about these left and right wings and all that, and in my opinion, it's better to just look at the facts, because I can just see how people can be easily manipulated. Doesn't matter what side you're on. It's like a hot button per se. You just say this and instantly, okay, I hate these groups of people and all that. Like, why do that? Just focus on the facts. Otherwise, again, you're just so prone to being manipulated. It's no difference than any other topics, for example, in my opinion. All right, see you guys later.